Hey guys, welcome to a very special video today where I'm gonna give you my personal guide on making Flood Escape 2 maps. I know this isn't the first time somebody's done it, but I think it would be cool if I gave my own take on it, as I've been doing this for about a year and a half now. And I'm sure you guys saw, but I'm doing this because the channel has officially reached 100 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Whether you've supported me from the beginning or you just got here, I'm glad that you came and checked me out. I never would have ever thought I'd get this far. I created this channel back in 2020 and I never thought of taking it seriously because I know everybody says being a YouTuber is impossible now, and your content will never get out there unless you stick to what's popular. But honestly, that's not true. It took 4 years to get here, but we're here, man. And I know you guys might be like, only 100, like this dude trash. Like only 1,000 subs is worth celebrating. But you just never know what will happen in your life, and sometimes you just kind of have these certain passions that come out of nowhere, and you just don't want to stop. And I think a lot of people will see that, and it's a very beautiful thing. Alright, enough of all the gushy talk. Let's get into how you can make your very own Flood Escape map. Okay, so before you do anything, before you get into Roblox Studio, something I recommend you do is to give yourself some time to think about what your map is going to be about. What's going to be the theme? Will there be a story? What would the color palette be like? Or how easy or hard will it be? Just ask yourself these questions before you get started. Now, you don't have to do this, but what I like doing is to get a piece of paper and draw out the layout of the map, or draw obstacles, decorations, things like that. And this really is a great way to set the foundation of what the entire map is going to look like. And you don't have to get the entire layout down. You could go through sections of it really slowly. A lot of your ideas will definitely change over time. Everything is not set in stone, and that's okay. Now, one thing before I get into the building part, I recommend that if you're making your first map, you either make easy, normal, or hard map, because making those maps of that difficulty can really help you understand the pacing of this game. Once you've gotten pacing down and you also understand the more advanced obstacles like wall jumps, different water functions, and zip lines, wall slides, stuff like that, then you could start going on to making the insane, crazy plus maps. Finally, I do want to talk about music. Now, if you want to use a BGM, from YouTube or Newgrounds, what I like to do is, find something you like, and while you listen to it, think about what the song would actually look like as a map, or even in real life, and what do the certain sounds or the beats of that song remind you of. This is a great way to get started on choosing a theme. And if you want to actually make a custom OST right out of the gate, you certainly can. If you know how to make music already, great. But if you don't, you could always actually go to the Crazy Blocks Games Discord, and there's a bunch of good people there that you could ask. They could make OSTs for you or help you with anything, answer any of your questions and things like that. So that's a great resource to have. But with that little pre-map making phase out of the way, now let's actually hop into Studio and I'll show you my process. Okay, by the way, I won't be covering much of the mechanics or technicalities of map making, like X-frames and mechanics of the game, but if you guys do want me to cover that, I could certainly make a separate video on that. This guide will be a more personal and methodical take on map making, and the type of mindset you want while creating them. Besides having knowledge, having the right mental state is just as important. Of course, before you start, I hope you're familiar with Roblox Studio and the map making kit, as you can't really progress without prior knowledge. But as far as how I start maps, you have a lot of resources available. First being the many mesh and texture packs that are made by other community members, and these are really helpful because one, the meshes look really good, and two, they're a lot more optimized instead of making things out of multiple parts. Map optimization is definitely one of the top priorities you should have, as well, obviously you don't want a terribly performing map, especially for those who are on lower end devices. You could also join the Floodescape Discord, and you could also ask a bunch of questions or get help from people, and they'll usually respond to you and help you with whatever you have, which is always great. Just remember to always credit the people who made them, and please don't try to steal their models, as that just makes you look like a thieving scum. Okay, so once I get the objects and deco I want, I just start by making some basic terrain and a beginning of the map. Oh, and one thing you want to remember too is when you place the spawn, check the direction that it's facing is correct, and you can do that by adding a decal, and yeah, see, you'll face that way when you spawn. Now while you build, just remember to keep the difficulty in mind, as you don't want inconsistencies in your map. Now I'll be making this example to kind of fit the normal difficulty, so here there will be a bunch of basic jumps and not too many things like wall jumps or slide barriers. Get into the perspective of the player. What do they consider to be easy or hard for them, and what do you notice in other maps of that same difficulty? Consider the music too. If what you choose is more slower paced, the map should generally be easier or normal. If it's faster, it should be insane and above. Another thing I should mention too is once you're done with your layout, you can test it in Studio by pressing play here. Now make sure the walk speed and jump power are the same as Floodescape's, which the walk speed is 20 and the jump power is 50. So you can play it to check it to balance out your level. You can also take the whole thing, make it a model, upload it, and then whitelist it in Floodescape community maps, and you can play it that way too. And you could always go back to the model and update it and just overwrite it to save the model again with your recent changes. Now as far as decorating goes, you don't want to over decorate, as that will probably make the map hard to sight read. And speaking of sight reading, a good way to make your map more sight readable is to see if you can play it both in third and first person, and make sure to add plenty of indicators both on the ground and on the walls or the terrain. Now I think it's best to do things like adding objects and choosing colors after you finish your layout, as it will make the process more streamlined, and you won't have to think about doing both at the same time. When choosing color, now you don't need to know color theory or anything like that, but just choose colors that contrast with each other well, or you can try also using different shades or tints of one color depending on the material your terrain or the object will be. Make sure other things like trusses, wall jumps, or zip lines stand out, as they will be easier for your eyes to follow towards as the player, and that they can be seen clearly so the player is prepared to interact with it. If you're trying to base your map off of something you would see in the real world, it's also a good idea to look at some images online to get a better idea of what you're making. If it's something fictional, then you could do whatever you want, as long as the colors will complement the lighting you make as well. If you want the map to take place in the day, and you can make it bright, and if you want it to take place at night, using low brightness and also more contrast will help fit the theme better. It also doesn't hurt to add some fun textures or decals too. See here, I just make this grass, and then I use this bottom portion here as like dirt or pebbles, and then I could add some more grass, some bushes, and some more rocks, or maybe some textured surface here too. This would be considered decent decoration. Another thing I like to do, and something I've noticed a lot of maps kind of don't have, is sound and ambience. I just like to think that every moving or living element of a map should have sound. If you're in a forest, maybe you want to hear the birds chirping or the trees moving. Or if you're underwater, you probably want to hear the bubbles in the ocean moving gently. Things like that. It really adds to the immersion and gives the map a lot more life to it. Adding sounds to button functions is great too, Like, for example, a wooden barrier falling, or a metal door moving, or maybe the sound of a waterfall moving. Think about what that might sound like, and also think about where it's happening and on what type of surface. You may be asking, okay, well, where could I get all these sounds? Well, if you go to the Roblox Marketplace and go to the audio tab, there are actually a lot of good options here, and you could search for whatever you're looking for. Okay, and the last thing I do want to talk about is something a little bit more personal, and just some life experience I'd like to give to you all. So my journey on this game has been quite a long and historic one. I started playing back in 2019, and I've been on and off with it really, but in late 2022 is where I actually just kind of got this spark, this idea of, I've been playing this game for a while, and why don't I actually make a map for once? And so I did, and by the beginning of 2023 I was able to make Futuristic Forest my very first map. The video's still up on my channel actually, and I'll admit it was really bad. I had no idea what I was doing. I just had a cool idea, and I just wanted to put it out and get it over with without really actually taking much time to understand everything. But in a lot of things in life, you do have to start somewhere, and note that not everyone's experience with this game, or really any other game, will be the same. Like, I'm seeing some people here, publishing their very first maps, and it looks like they've been doing this for years. Like, I don't know how they do it. Like, it's unfathomable. Like, why didn't I try to be like these people, So I just thought to myself, alright, my first map was okay, let's do another one. And up until summer of 2023, I was making maps, but then I'm like, it's not really going anywhere and nobody seems to care. So I should just stop wasting my time, and actually do something useful in the real world. You wannabe loser. So after 6 months, I tried not to engage in Flowscape anymore. But then around New Year's of this year, so back in January, I had another thought, and I was seeing some pretty big updates to the game, and maybe I should go and try again. And so I went down a rabbit hole on how to do timelines, because that was pretty new at the time, and finally, when I actually started to understand everything, I was ready. I published Futuristic Forest V3, and once I did that, everything changed. It's like, what I did back then actually did matter, and this was just the beginning of a new chapter. I was off. I was, redoing every one of my other older maps, and I was starting to, meet new people and learn new things that I never thought I would have ever learned. And now, here I am. Now some of my maps are in fan games. I've got a somewhat okay reputation, and now 100 subs on YouTube. So anyway, the point I wanted to make is that if you have those same feelings, or if you want to try and do what I did, it's totally possible, and I completely understand where you're coming from. Just know it's not gonna take one day. It's not gonna take a week or a month, or it may not even take even a year to get to where I got to. But when you least expect it, something might change. Alright, okay, at this point, I know probably some of you clicked off the video thinking like, this guy is freaking schizophrenic, what is he talking about? But I just want to say that all this is because if I didn't have the passion, or took advantage of things, or learned from my mistakes, I wouldn't be here. And I may not be as big as other creators are, or the best map maker out there, or the best guide out there, to be honest, but I still hope this serves as an inspiration for you as you begin your map making journey. Alright, well, I'm gonna end things here, and I'm glad y'all could really join me in this very special video. Next upload probably gonna be more Phantom Forces. I am working on a Halloween map, so stay tuned till the end of the month. One more thing. Since this is a special video, why not just drop whatever questions you have about me in the comments, and I'll answer them. Let's have a mini Q&A. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and thank you again for the 100 subscribers, and I hope that we can keep growing this channel, keep growing as people, and just keep growing as a community. So yeah, I'll see you guys around. Take care.